I just found out something so ridiculous that I never knew. I'm going to go ahead and break it to you guys. I'm not going to ruin the story, I'm not going to spoil it, because this one has a lot of juicy details, but just know. I'm an affair baby. Have you ever had that moment in your life where nothing remains the same forever and your life seems to make sense all of a sudden? I don't know how to consider some moments of revelation as blessings or curses. You better tell me that because I'm going to give you the full story, right? I'm Daisy, I'm 16, I am in high school still, and currently I'm grounded. I just cried and now the tears have gone dry, but I'm still angry. So I brought myself here to this platform to find solace. So let me tell you how I ended up here. Like everyone else, I used to believe that I had a normal family like everyone else. Mom Darla, Dad Aiden, and my siblings, both younger than me, are still in primary school. Noah and Nora, but I don't know why I feel like an outsider. Is that normal for every teenager, especially the oldest, amongst their siblings, because it's getting intolerable with each passing day? I feel like a half-parent to my siblings and yet get treated like a piece of crap. And how can I expect my little siblings to be respectful when my own mother had degraded me so badly? I sometimes feel like I'm getting punished for something that I'm not aware of. How could people harbor so much hatred for someone? I could never understand. Thank goodness that I have a dad who sometimes saves me from my mom's wrath, but maybe just because he doesn't hate me, I can never conclude if he loved me more than Nora and Noah. Due to this, I have become a people pleaser, just to keep my mom's mood right and avoid her backlash and tantrums every now and then. Since she's not a homemaker because of her 9-to-5 job, she turned me into one before I could realize it. In the beginning, I was told to lend her help for looking after Nora and Noah, along with other stuff. But eventually, without realizing it, I became responsible for it, and now I'm the so-called homemaker. Or maybe worse, because they get an appreciation for their work, unlike my case. Even my siblings order me and demand stuff as if I'm the one who's responsible for everything wrong happening around me. And I won't blame them because they're observing and picking up the same thing from Mom, which they were reflecting. Not only that, Mom always reminds me that, an older sibling, I'm the responsible one and should fulfill my duties because according to her, I'm useless. So, she was technically treating me as a house servant to raise her bratty kids, and I'm sorry for exaggerating stuff, but let me tell you the complete story. Today, before leaving my school, I refused to give breakfast because they expected me to serve their cereal in a bowl and put peanut butter on their bread. I mean, come on, they're very capable of doing that themselves. Anyways, I did not have time to argue with my mom about it, so I did what she said and left. I knew after returning home I had to babysit till 5 p.m., or maybe longer if Mom was at some kiddie party, but I knew these brats hardly listened to me. All I took care of was that they don't stab each other with the pencils, rip notebooks, break toys, or get themselves into trouble. So being their elder sister, I had to do their homework only because Mom would scold me for not helping them out, which actually meant I was not helping her spoil them. I have my exams tomorrow, and I have to keep an eye on them and study as well, and I cannot manage the house chores except for laundry for my uniform tomorrow. But it took her longer than 5, and I was still waiting for her. Finally, both kids were tired of fighting with one another, so it was easy to tuck them into bed, and just then I heard a loud noise of something breaking and was scared of Mom, who was drunk and standing in the middle of a messy drawing room, where she stumbled on some toys and broke the expensive vase. She yelled at me at the top of her lungs for littering the living room and keeping the mess around the house. Before I could even answer, I saw some of her friends gathered at the doorstep trying to escape the puddle of spilled juice, which was created by Nora. Well, I admit that it's her secondhand embarrassment plus the temper she was losing in front of them was creating a wholesome drama. Her friends, feeling quite awkward, started making excuses to leave our premises. She was getting furious as soon as they left. Mom, drunk and not thinking straight, was approaching me, and I froze. The goosebumps rose when I saw her hands rise, and I heard a voice yelling "Darla" to stop her. He was standing by the door, and I sighed in relief that it was Dad's time to arrive home, and I was really lucky that day because Dad stepped in. Though he could not take a stand against Darla, at least he calmed her down and let me escape from the scene. So basically, Mom rules the house, and Dad, who was so submissive in front of her, would never take a stand apart from obeying her just to calm down or just trying to cheer her up from the gifts, you know? I do not mind my dad being like that because it's his nature that he's gentle and soft, but he doesn't let her realize that she could also be wrong at times. He never dared to say that to her face, even though he could clearly see what was wrong and what was not. I mean, he could see how notorious and mannerless Nora and Noah have turned into. If she had taught them some manners, I'm sure the mess and littler would not have been created. Nora and Noah both turned out to be egoistic kids who hated being corrected and wronged by someone else. They try their best just to make someone's life hell if they don't like them, and unfortunately, I'm the one who was the victim of this. I hated that Dad, even though he tried to reduce tension and tussle between me and Mom, it never seemed like he explicitly took my side and stood up for me. At that moment, I felt like he loved Mom more than anyone else, and Mom, in her stern voice, told me that I was grounded for a week. And I just rushed back to my room, still reeling from the shock that she could have slapped or hit me if Dad had not stopped her. I start to cry. Well, knowing that I do not have enough time to sulk over my crappy life because I have my exam tomorrow and I cannot mess up my mental and emotional state. So I calmed myself down, keeping aside all the grudges, and started studying, having one goal in mind, getting the best scores so that I could leave my house and family for real. The next morning, when I came down for breakfast before leaving for school, I could see Dad has been successful in making things better with Mom. She was cheery, and she was making plans for her upcoming anniversary. She was not in the mood for a party, but rather something different this time, and before leaving I saw the tickets in her folder. She handed them to Dad, not interested in their plans, and I left the place. Update number 1. Hey guys, thanks for listening to my story and supporting me during my tough times. Well, I could not have wait to tell you the moment that things started making sense that I've been just cribbling over for so long. Well, after that day, when I returned from my school, I saw the house was empty, except for the note that was left by my mom. It said, "Left for a vacation, we'll be back in a few days, take care of the home. Behind our back, you have, well, grounded anyways." That's it, she left me home alone to look after her house behind her back, and she planned the trip when I was having my finals. I felt like crying for being neglected and ignored, even though I know at the same time that being alone right now is the best time for me to have rest and peace, which will also be good for me to focus better without disturbance. But feelings have, no such logic. Even after hating them and knowing it was good for me to be away, I could not help it. Anyways, after calming myself down, I started working and realized that I needed some important printout. I went to my dad's study where we had our printer, but the papers were not stacked in them. I started searching for printer paper in his shelf, and I glanced upon a photograph album in the corner on the east side of the shelf. I got distracted by putting my work aside, and it was a task to pull out such a heavy album. So I excitedly opened it, and of course the album thing was gone long ago. But they were clicking through Grandma's vintage camera when they were little kids, and we smiled looking at my old pictures, and I was hit by such nostalgia. Noah was a baby by then, and Nora had yet to be born. For the first time, I noticed that my pictures were less, and so was my smile. Unless it completely disappeared and my last photo was just glaring on camera without expression. It was a family photo. All the memories started hitting me, making me realize that there had hardly been anything in my childhood that was worth remembering. I was mistakenly captured by the camera, always behind the background, and all the memories that I started recalling had no happy moments within them. Like in Disneyland with Noah, where I was not given a chance to have a single ride. I was taken along only to take care of their belongings while they were having fun. Mom leaving me behind during camping, I almost ended up losing my way in the forest. No cake was ever cut on my birthdays, Mom carrying Noah and Nora on their lap when Nora was a newborn, and I was the one who clicked their family photo. It was mostly me just taking all the pictures, and I was hardly ever found. I put the album to the side, not wanting to recall everything that I went through because it hurts even more when we don't know why it happened to us. So, I picked up the album and I was unable to push it back into its place previously. I noticed the folder was stuck in between, not giving it space, so I pushed that folder aside to make a place to set the album. And suddenly the folder fell on the floor along with some paper stacked in it. When I picked it up, the paper was old and pale, and I suddenly noticed my name was written on it. I got all my answers because it was my birth certificate where my dad's name was written, and my mother's name was written as Sophia. And I saw Darla's name signed on it claiming my adoption. Getting shocked is an understatement. In fact, my head was spinning, and I felt like throwing up at the moment I realized I was adopted. I couldn't believe it. I instantly just clicked its picture and texted Dad. I was getting restless by not getting an instant reply, so I called him to ask for the picture I had sent and the woman named Sophia. Well, Dad started fumbling with his words and he could not speak up, and I only said that he needs to come back now and hung up. I was furious, but at the same time feeling helpless, I started to cry. Absolutely uncontrollably. I finally learned why I was given the punishment for my existence, but it still did not make sense why she would adopt me if she would hate me. I texted my mom, asking about Sophie and why she adopted me, and I did not even get a single reply. I was enraged at Mom. Sorry, stepmom. Not just Darla, she doesn't deserve to be called a mom in any sense. I also called her a few times, but she hung up on me. Well, maybe I have other means to get her attention because I could not let her enjoy her life after ruining mine, so I searched in her room, found her credit cards, and ordered myself a huge meal. A Gucci handbag that was limited edition, knowing that no one would give such an expensive gift to me. So I ordered it as a reward for tolerating this tormenting behavior of this woman for so long. I at least deserved this much. I could help, but keep on buying a few more items, and the rest of the money I transferred to myself, it went straight to a bank account. I did extract as much money as I could until the credit cards were empty. Just then, I get a call from Darla, and this time I hung up on her, and not only that, but if she ever tried to kick me out of the house, I took all her documents that claimed her ownership of the home. I thought about what else I could do, so you know what? I stole all her expensive jewelry. Till then, I got my delivery at least. I enjoyed my meal, and I was starving so badly that I had not eaten anything since breakfast, and fighting this emotional trauma took a toll on me. Darla's text and messages did not stop coming. I only told her that if she got late, I wouldn't let her come inside the house and wished her a happy journey, knowing that I was at home alone. I could take pure advantage of everything that I could. Well, it actually worked. When Darla and Dad came back within 2 hours, I could hear them across the street as they were making so much darn noise. Darla arguing with Dad, Nora crying and screaming at the top of her lungs, and Noah getting irritated. Darla's yelling at the side of me for spending thousands of dollars in an hour, clearly wanting to beat me up, was somehow withheld by Dad. She left, giving him an ultimatum to deal with his daughter or she would handle it her way. This time, I was not scared and asked her, okay, how are you going to do that? Dad took me away from her in his study to tell me everything. He exclaimed that my biological mom, Sophie, was not the right person. She never loved me and gave me away. He took me to a safe and stable life, and he even sided with Darla, saying that she's not a bad person. She kept me with her because in real life, foster parents are way, way worse. I stood there confused and could not conclude who was right or wrong, and I started feeling sheepish for being so reckless. Updates. Number 2. Hey guys, you know what I've been going through a lot for the last few days. On one hand, I was trying to dig deeper to find the truth, and on the other hand, I could not find my mom on any social media platform. The only hope I have is through this platform. If you guys know anything or anyone who could resemble the names and ages of the people I mentioned, please text me. Anyways, talking of my parents, surprisingly, Darla cannot do much about me acting like one of her kids. Yes, bratty. Because all that time, I used to believe that I had done something wrong, and now that I stopped caring about being a good girl and what she thought or felt, I just started living the way I liked. I only regard my dad as my only parent, and because of him, I do not misbehave much with Darla or cause her trouble. I still have a few days since my exams were over, and I have already started applying for colleges, selecting majors, and moving away from my toxic household. So I thought of talking to my dad, even though he doesn't have much interest in my life decisions, but I only resorted to him for his suggestions. When I was about to knock on the door, I heard Darla's voice saying to Father that she's been tired of forgiving him every time. She could not bear me at her house until she saw me suffer, because that was the only way that she could forgive my dad for cheating on her. She warned him not to come in between or try to cover up because he would face the repercussion of it. She reminded him that he made his choice a long time ago by choosing her over me, because of which she stayed in this marriage, and the only sense of content she has is when she was able to make me suffer the same amount of pain that she had gone through when she was betrayed by him and came up with an affair baby in her family. My pain and suffering were the medium of her revenge and satisfaction. My heart was shattered into a million pieces when I learned the reason behind Dad being submissive to Darla and never taking a stand for me was just because he was guilty of his mistakes and didn't want to make it worse for her by taking her side. He already made his choice years ago by choosing Darla. Well, and also, he never interfered much with my ill treatment, not because he could not, but because he never wanted to. And now that I cannot trust him with whatever he told me about Mom, I wish I could know the other side of the story as well. But one thing surely happened was that I lost respect for my dad as well, because I'm sure he must have told the lies about Mom, and if he loves Darla, then it's sure that he'll never give me unbiased information about Mom. He surely has abandoned Mother. Till then, I could not sit silently because now I could not help but make Darla just straight up suffer. As now I knew what she did to me was all part of her deliberate plan, so it was my time to make it even. I started putting up with my nice act and became the responsible old Daisy who cleaned, cooked, did laundry, babysat her kids, etc. My so-called siblings. Knowing Darla had important meetings, I dissolved medicine in their meal just as Darla sat in her car. She came back and rushed to the restroom, and she had diarrhea with a stomach ache. Her meeting could not be postponed at the last moment, so the deal got canceled. But I did not stop till breakfast, and I also made her lunch, saying it's light. But again, she had the same problem. By the time she was having rest, I had parked her car in a non-parking zone, for which she had been fined severely. I even refused to do homework for Nora and Noah, and now they have been served a detention period and punishment. Not only that, but since Mom was not fine, I volunteered to meet their principal as their guardian and inform them of the whole list of misbehavior and brattiness that got them to face the consequences. Well, even though it was momentary satisfaction, I still could not get over the fact that I've been adopted. Please help me contact my mom. Final update number 3. This platform is really helpful for connecting people and sharing real-life experiences. Hi, I'm Sophia, this side. After finding Daisy's name in the story, I immediately jumped in, hoping that I had not been too late to contact my daughter. It was really painful to see your kids suffer at the hands of others even when you trusted them. I continuously cried while reading the updates. Seeing how much suffering your stepmom has caused you, please forgive me for not being able to be a part of your life. Also, I was enraged by how casually Aiden, your dad, had lied to you about me. I've been longing to tell my side of the story ever since. It all started 17 years ago, and I was not even 18 when I met your dad, who was in his mid-30s. I met him at the workshop session where his company was holding training sessions for school pass-out students. After professing training, It might help us if to get internships to gain experience and pursue expertise in a respective field. I got carried away by his charisma and how great he was at his job. When our interaction began, he turned out to be a really, really kind person. Only if I knew that was just the facade he put up. Anyways, I knew he was at the age where finding someone like him to be single was next to impossible. In fact, I believed that he had full-fledged family with 2 kids and a loving wife. When he befriended me, I got to know that he was in a childless marriage and that his relations with his wife were going through a rough phase. He used to snap at people and always was a bit anxious. So, I was really concerned about him. I don't know why I was so bothered until I realized when he found his solace in me that I was in love. Yeah, that was the most unfortunate thing that I regret to date. We got close whenever he confided in me, and I got to know that his wife was battling depression due to her constant miscarriages. He wanted to be the father, but her pregnancy issues were pulling them apart. The long-drawn conflict with his life led me to take over his job far from his home. His vulnerable side made me so inclined towards him that we got romantically involved with each other. I was under the delusion that this bond was two-sided, but he only showed up when things weren't right with him. When I told him that I missed my period, all his kindness faded away at the moment, and I was stunned and scared of his sudden outrage that he did not think twice to embarrass me in front of people, which led to the spread of gossip, and that too when I was residing in the countryside where people knew each other's families. When these rumors reached him, he got to his senses, apologized for his behavior, and took a promise from me to keep it a secret. He tried to justify that he was not prepared for it and swore that he would not leave me alone. I was desperate and in love, asked him to marry me, and he flinched for a second, but agreed, reluctantly, saying that he needed to divorce his wife first, as he was sure that, well, she would leave him anyways. Whenever I met him to ask about his marital status, he would repeat the same thing, that he was waiting for the right moment to divorce his wife. And it kind of worked in his favor, but not mine, because it had been more than a month and the belly bump was getting bigger. I kept giving him ultimatums until one day, Aiden had just changed jobs and was moving into a new city. He was ready to start a new life with me, knowing that if my belly grew bigger, it would become difficult to hide and they could be caught easily. He booked my flight tickets and we moved to the Carolina Islands to start fresh. Once the baby was delivered, we would get married because he was saving money for the hospital bills. I felt like I was living a dream. I was already 2 months pregnant, and the remaining 9 months were blissful. I was admitted to the hospital when my water broke, and soon I was blessed with my daughter Daisy. It was the most wholesome moment of my life. But soon after my delivery, Aiden was nowhere to be found. He left me with a note saying he would be back soon. He has something urgent to do. He just kept on sending me money after money, and remained in touch for a few days, but soon after that, his calls and money, they stopped. Days, weeks, months, years passed by, and I gave up all hope of seeing him again. I wanted to return home simply because of my child's insecure future, but I found Aiden at my doorstep with a lady. He introduced her to me as his wife and asked me to hand over the child to him because he wanted to help me give her a better future where he lives. The lady said that she wanted to be a mother, so she wanted to fulfill her wishes by adopting my child. She advised me that I'm still not mature enough to be a parent. Seeing her so financially well off, I knew that she could take better care of my little Daisy by giving the secure future. I sacrificed myself to be out of my daughter's life, just to provide her with what I was lacking as a parent. And well, but seeing as the suffering of today, I feel like my sacrifice was simply not worth it. I cried 1,000 tears while handing over my precious daughter to someone else, because I believed that her father would take care of her. But I'm absolutely in tears. While reading through her sad story here on this platform, please, Daisy, don't listen to your dad. He's just a terrible person who would love no one except Darla. Please come back to your mom if you can still forever forgive me for the bad decisions I've done. Thank you, Daisy. Well, this story had a lot of sad moments to it. I mean, there was just elements that was so sad about it. I just feel like we were kind of left with a cliffhanger towards the end of the story with the biological mother responding to OP's original post. And it just was so sad how she's regretting the decision of giving Daisy away to her biological dad. And guys, I just want to know, if you were in OP's position or OP's biological mom at the end of the post, what would you have done? Would you have given Daisy away for a better life, or would you have tried to keep Daisy even though you're struggling financially and just tried to make it work? Because, well, we also know it didn't really work out with the father and the stepmom. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Drop it down below in the comment section. My name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate stories like this every day. If you guys want to be a part of these daily readings, go ahead, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.